Okay.
Shit has been not great.
Okay, well, okay. We'll leave that for after.
I'm still gonna make this anyways because I'm already halfway done. So
You may as well. You may as well. I love to see your handiwork as always.
even though it's a missing poster for her.
Yeah, heck yeah. We never know when we're gonna need this again. I had a coworker who had to go to another office for like 3 months, and I made a milk carton poster. I put her picture in there. It was, of course, she was dressed up as a one of the 3 little pigs in it, so I just went with it. Put it in her old cubicle.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, I need one more text later. Oops, hold on.
Also, one of the funniest things that you could do if you work in an office on April Fool's Day, put a sign on the copier that says "Now voice activated."
Oh my god!
You will hear a lot of people just go copy.
Do people fall for that?
Oh my
really?
god, so many fucking times. It's not even.
Oh no!
And if you're sitting right by the copier, it's even more funny.
Oh my god! Don't give me these ideas because I might actually do it. Because people around my county office are kind of gullible.
Oh, trust me, so are mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Did I just see something pop up?
Hey, hey.
Hi.
Hello.
We are live.
Wait, where is it? There it is. Okay. Whoops. Are you good, Run?
Later. It's fine.
Huh?
I'll be fine. Just
Okay. Where you are?
We'll just go.
Okay. Let me get you up on camera then.
Did you buy a lamp? You look so.
No, I have a
much
Logitech
brighter.
new webcam because you I updated my webcam.
What? All right.
No way.
So yeah, I haven't quite figured out how to use like settings and stuff now. It's a lot wider range than I'm used to, so I've got to deal with how to think. So we'll have to figure out how that works and stuff because I don't think I can move that, but we'll figure it out later. It's fine. I'm just happy I'm here. So
We're happy you're here too.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna make you face away today. We'll see what happens.
So we weren't sure what was going on, Renara. So
fine.
I made you something.
Okay, it's fine. I can give you a rundown because if it's okay. What's
You don't. No. You don't have to. No. Don't give us. Like I said, I'm not recording you, but you are on YouTube at the moment.
Okay.
I just want to make this clear.
It's fine. It's okay.
To those people that are watching, hello and thank you. Apologies for starting late.
It's fine. I'll just be kind of vague in the sense of I've had a migraine that's persisted for about 3 days, including other stuff. So, well, we're not gonna go into that now, but yeah,
It's fine.
Okay.
It's all fine.
Thanks for keeping us abreast.
It's okay.
Abreast?
Abreast, yes.
I'll look it up later. All right.
Apprised of the situation, if you will.
There we are.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you for that. All right. We are recording, so let's have a good show. Everybody, make sure that you got your audio recording going, please.
Wait a second.
Una segundo, por favor.
There it is.
Good.
Sorry, I don't have anything important to say.
Doink. Okay, we're good.
Check.
Yep.
Good.
1, 2, 3, go.
Doink. Here we go.
Doink.
Greetings all. You get slightly groggy and ill Renara today to talk to you about what not to do in voice acting when you're ill. This has come from many years of basically doing the exact opposite of what I'm about to tell you because I'm a workaholic. There, I said it. At least acknowledging you have a problem is the first step. Right, so, Renara's ill tips on VA work when you're ill. Number 1. Stop. Rest. And don't overwork your voice. Honestly, it seems weird, or at least it seems weird to me to say this, but you shouldn't. You wouldn't tell someone who's a track athlete to run if they've either sprained or injured their leg, so don't do it to your voice. Number 2, listen to Elderino when he says, drink water. Stay hydrated no matter what illness you have. It will actually help you get better quicker. Don't ask me how it works. That information is currently buried under brain fog and repressed memories of schooling. Number 3. If you absolutely have to do some voiceover work because you have deadlines that can't be pushed back because the director has to get their next episode of Ducks and whatever the fuck it is out by the end of next month because the viewers demand satisfaction. Please ensure that you are engaging your diaphragm correctly so that there is minimal amount of strain on your voice box. If you strain your voice box, you can develop something called nodules. Fun. On your vocal cords, which are basically calluses, round blobs of blech on your cords that stop them from closing correctly and can only be removed through surgery. Trust me, as someone who nearly got nodules at a young age, the scare stuck with me for life. So please don't do a me, okay? Look after yourself and kick ass vocally when you're fully better. Oh, and lastly, when you are feeling better and you think you can just jump straight back into voiceover work, wait one more day extra before doing so. It's like antibiotics. You may feel better, but you have to finish the course. It's the same way with voice work. Your voice might mostly be healed, but so just take one extra day before you start screaming into your microphone about how all these motherfuckers are gonna kill all my lilies and shit, you know. So, today, we have Jett back, ready to tell us much more about the SAG-AFTRA strikes, and I can't wait to know everything that's going on with it all. So, take it away, Zamudi.
Welcome, everybody. Where am I taking this, by the way, Renara?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Welcome to Corporate the podcast by voice actors for voice actors. Intro was by Renara. Welcome. You sound better.
I'm on the tail end.
You're on the
now,
mend.
But that was just entire brain. That is what my brain does in brain fog, and just I apologize.
No worries, no worries. I will note for those of you that are either here live on YouTube or watching the edited video, you look way different there, Renara.
I know.
Yeah.
So I got brand new webcam for my birthday because Elderino. My usual way with technology is I use it up until it breaks. This time I decided that I wanted an upgrade and asked for something for my birthday, and I got Elderino will know what it's called, but it's a Logitech one. It's huge, it's fancy, and it's got light up stuff at the front. It's really cool.
Wow.
I also
Investing for the show. That makes
I
me
know.
very happy. That's how you invest in success.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me finish my spiel. I apologize for the distraction, but again, if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. If not, if you're listening to us, feel free to come out and check out YouTube if you ever wonder what we all look like, and look at the last episode versus this episode. No, wait. Last episode you weren't here most of the time.
Oh,
2 episodes ago.
She was here for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you have any audio, anything you want us to listen to from your side, if you're working on a voice, if you have a demo that you're working on, we'd love to hear it. You can email it to us at coldbreathethepodcast@gmail.com, or we will be more than happy to have you join our Discord. Link should be in the description of this episode. And you can drop it in there, and we'd love to hear it. If you have any topics, anything else that you want to talk about, just let us know. One of the reasons that we bring Jett on with us right now, not only to see how Jett's doing, but we would love to hear all of the SAG-AFTRA, because there's a lot of preparation there. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Until that, let's check in with everybody. So we see you much clearly. Renara, how was your week?
I have not been well. I think I've not been well for for a while, and it just sort of culminated until about like midway through the week, where everything just went, okay, you've gotten through everything now, you're allowed to be ill. So I've kind of just vegetated a little bit, just kind of just going through the motions and stuff. And yeah, just taking it sort of a little bit slow and a little bit easier. I purposefully took myself away from my desk during these these past few days because I've been in the booth just stressing about everything else, which I think probably added to it.
Mhm.
But it was just sort of like I am purposely staying away for at least from this box for at least a week, and I think so we're almost there. So voice is a little lower. I
Yeah,
think
we can hear
I've
it.
got something going on weird. Voice has been doing a weird thing, so I'm kind of just taking my own advice of let's not right now. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of just I'm happily waiting for some feedback or some stuff from other projects. But actually, I actually will possibly, hopefully, be starting voice lessons again
Oh,
in the near future.
nice.
Nice.
Because I am entirely aware that there are certain sections in my voice range that I can't access currently. Oh, not currently, as in ill currently, but at the minute, I'm listening through all my songs and I'm listening through all my recordings, and I'm like going, okay, there's a section that I need some help in getting power behind that. So I actually reached out to Ben from last episode.
Oh,
Because he
yay.
does vocal coaching, and he's going to put together a package. We're going to work together and see how that goes. So yeah,
Very cool.
it's so cool.
Yeah. Well,
But
good.
yeah,
Always
that's
helping to
me.
make connections. That's always a good thing that we love to do. And there's the dink, dink, dink. So thank you for that.
Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, Renara. I hope you feel
As
better.
always, a pleasure.
Yes. Eldorino, how was your week?
Hey.
Hey.
I didn't really do anything at all this week, sadly.
Yeah.
I have
Oh.
pretty much nothing to report, other than my wonderful fiance finally, after me begging for months, has tried out Final Fantasy 14. So
Ooh.
very excited to get re-obsessed with that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Wait, don't worry though, it won't turn out like how Destiny did. Destiny 2, sorry. Destiny 2, the video game.
As in, like, ticking you off?
I love that game, but I fucking hate that game so much. I hate it. It's
The duality of man.
Yes.
It really is, and Final Fantasy has just never done me wrong. So, yeah. Anyways, I really didn't do anything.
No,
I feel kind of lame not having anything cool or exciting to talk about. But this week was just
It's life. It's just life.
Yeah.
That's how life is sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah. It was just a chill week. Just to did some music stuff, I guess.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Here. This is the exciting part. Ready?
Okay.
Here
Okay.
we go.
I am practicing my guitar again because I am extremely out of practice. Like doing exercises I used to do like nearly every day. Oh my god, it's so terrible. I'm almost embarrassed as to how out of practice I am. So that's a goal that I'm trying to reach is
That's
before
good.
like, before the end of the year, try and get back into practice with my guitar, be comfortable with it, and maybe that will push me to finish this album that I told myself I was going to write and have only written like 2 songs for. So, yes,
Ooh.
and Final Fantasy has not done me any wrong yet. However, that game is in the very good hands of Square Enix and, not Bungie. Anyways,
I have
Well, that
not
was
played
awkward.
Samudi, tell us
Hey,
about
yeah.
your week because I don't want to
Yes.
keep talking.
No, I got you. I got you. In all honesty, mine is not much better. I was able to work a couple of days, and then I kept getting tired. Had to go to the doctor. Doctor gave me a couple of days off.
We've all had a
Basically,
chill week.
yeah, I had a chill week. I am still putting together that musical review we got coming up in the middle of September. So I put in a lot of work there. Vinny has actually been helping us out a lot. Eldorino, sorry.
Hey.
Yeah, it's apologies for.
Yeah,
but-
we're past that point now.
Yeah, I know. So I appreciate all the help. You've bailed me out twice, and that was awesome. It's good. We've got a nice cast of 14. We're gonna put together a 2-hour show, so we got a good amount of numbers. We got a good amount of group numbers. That does take up a lot more time than I thought that it used to. So I'm hoping to get back to voice acting when I'm a little bit more recovered. And we'll see how the next week goes. So we're all, again, chill week for all of us. So very cool. Let's check in with Jett Barker. How was your week? Hello.
Yeah, I mean, my week was, I mean, sort of similarly to the rest of you, relatively straightforward and standard on my end of things. Auditions as normal, just an income job stuff. I work as an audio engineer in a very sort of niche subfield of audio engineering.
Ooh.
So sort of typical stuff like that. There's
You have to say what it is now.
Yeah. Jorino's
Now it's
interest
like
just
this big
peaked. I saw his
mystery.
eyes just like light up.
yeah, so it has a very odd name. So the subfield that I work within, so the studio with which I work is primarily partnered with Audible. And what they call this phase of the production process is second QC, which is not actually a very descriptive name for what it is, because that makes it sound like it's a branch of QA, which isn't exactly what it is in the most traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's one part audio analysis, so like general compliance with all of their technical standards and things like that, and then one part final review and correction. So it's actually it's the very last phase of production before publication. So it doesn't have a flashy name. It's a fairly like niche sort of thing, but the studio that I work for, I'm their second QC coordinator, so I manage that department. And we are one of Audible's main second QC studios. Meaning that occasionally we get some stuff a little earlier than normal. Like whenever the audio adaptations of The Sandman come out, we always get those a couple months in advance because they're passing through our workflow and stuff like that. So all of the big sort of business critical titles, they'll often either go through us or one other group, depending on people's availability.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
No kidding.
Well, and you know, I may want to ask if that's helped you out on the voice acting front, but let's help remind the audience first, because we talked to you a couple seasons back. And so if you want to give us just a quick rundown of how you got into this whole voice acting thing, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. So, I initially, my sort of introduction to voice acting in a practical sense, was 2013. I was fortunate enough to be able to take a sort of weekend of workshops, so 2 8-hour workshops, courtesy of, well, back in ye olden times, before virtual workshops existed. Bang Zoom, which is based out of Burbank, they would occasionally do classes outside of Southern California. And so the 2013 batch that was done in San Francisco, because I used to live in the Bay Area, that 2013 batch was the first time that they'd been back to Northern California in about 4 years. And I sort of took those 2 sets of workshops. I went, okay, this is what I want to do professionally. And so everything in the interim was very much just, all right, so I need to hoard a ridiculous amount of acting and theater training and, you know, get all of those things. And I managed to take voice lessons during university for disgustingly cheap because no one ever used the music department's scholarship funds. And so even though I wasn't a music major or a music minor, I was like, can I apply for this? And they went, nobody else is, go for it. So that's not...
Woo, use it or lose it.
True.
Awesome.
But more or less. Got some audio engineering training because of the Center for Contemporary Music that still existed at my school at the time. It got eaten by a larger university, and now that program no longer really exists, which I'm still kind of angry about. And then, I mean, I knew eventually, you know, I moved back in with my family during the initial bout of lockdowns in 2020 because I'm immunocompromised and also Northern California rent is disgusting. And so when I was ready to move back out again, I realized it's actually going to be cheaper for me to live in Southern California than try to find a place up here. So
Okay.
that was what sort of allowed me logistically to move to Los Angeles in August of 2021. So I am about 20 minutes northwest of Burbank,
Okay.
in the home base of
Nice.
those humans whose workshops I took in
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, just in terms of like, well, what have you done professionally? You know, I mean, I've
Was that an impression of me? That was pretty good. I like that.
No.
Kind of a
But
grimace Thanos thing going on there. I'll take it.
Oh, dear. No, I mean I've done a slightly ridiculous volume of video game work,
You
some new
have.
media stuff, a little bit of commercial. Got to do ADR professionally for a bit, but only actually managed to sneak into anime this year because most of it has been eaten by Dallas.
Yeah.
And but you know, I mean, doing incidentals in Record of Ragnarok this year was what made me SAG-AFTRA eligible. So for me, I'm not a member of the union itself, which means that unfortunately I'm not necessarily privy to all of the emails and updates that get sent out internally.
Yeah.
But I have many friends who
Oh.
are affiliated with
Yeah.
SAG-AFTRA and get those, which means that because they aren't confidential in the strictest sense for the things that aren't super firmly locked down as this is not
Yeah.
to be distributed,
Yeah.
then those materials I have largely been able to see. So, I mean, in some ways, when the WGA went on strike and I understood the timing, I was like, I think SAG is probably going to go on strike, and I've never done this before. So even before the WGA started striking, so I had about a month and a half head start
Okay.
before SAG officially declared that they were going on strike, because I was like,
Nice.
yep, it's coming. So, I mean, that's mostly, you know, I mean, a lot of the information that I have is the same sort of public-facing information that anyone would be able to access at this point.
Okay.
Mostly because SAG tries really hard to make things easily comprehensible, but especially for voice acting, it's a little complicated and weird because I hate to phrase it as SAG doesn't care about us. But in terms of the TV theatrical agreement, which is the primary agreement that is affected right now, we are not impacted in nearly the same way as our on-camera cousins.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure geographically, considering how close you are to Burbank and everything else that's going on down there, I mean, that does give you access to all of that friends and information and everything else. So I know we talked about it a couple episodes ago. We just kind of went over through the strike order. You've got a lot more information on this, so I'm very interested in what you've got to say. The floor is yours. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to sort of field questions or just sort of fully go in as to like how exactly does a TV theatrical strike affect people in voiceover as a whole.
Well,
I don't know what's the most useful for you all.
Sure.
Let me ask you this, because you said that, you know, this may not necessarily affect voice actors as a whole. It's more affecting those on like TV or on camera work or theater stuff. Specifically to you, how has it affected you?
How it's affected me at the moment is so for me, first of all, just a quick point of clarity. The agreement itself is called a TV theatrical agreement. The theatrical half of that agreement does not refer to theater. It refers to theatrical release film.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay,
good to know.
Yeah, because unionized theater relies in the United States. It's a little different depending on where you are in the world. But in the United States, unionized theater uses Actors Equity as its union rather than SAG-AFTRA. So theater is entirely unaffected by the SAG-AFTRA strike.
Right. Okay.
That explains a lot. We've got a couple of big shows down here. I was wondering if those were going to get canceled. So cool.
Yeah.
Nope, as long as they're entirely sourced through equity, which is going to be the case in
Yeah. Well, and we've got
for basically
Beetlejuice playing
everybody.
down here in San Diego area. I've been dying to watch it, so I'm trying to get tickets to it. So.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Don't mind me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to, because I remember this whole thing started after we did that whole because I reached out to Jett in DMs asking them basically, because I got a casting call through to me, and then I went, because Jett then said on the Discord that they knew a bit more about the SAG-AFTRA strikes, and so I went, Jett, could you have a look at this? And could you tell me if it's okay if I could do this and everything? And they just went into so much more detail about it all, and then afterwards I felt a little bit like, oh, I completely misread this, because at one point I think you said, Jett, I have no way to say this without sounding like a dick, but did you what was, oh, could you remind me, do you remember at all or no?
I don't know what part of the thing you're referring to, so
I
hang
found
on.
it.
Okay.
I found it.
Okay.
Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I promise I can get it.
Yeah, no, it was just I will say it was very, very entertaining at the very least, in the sense of it was
No,
like,
because I mean, I never want to seem cruel to folks.
No,
and
no.
I will say as well that the way that all of this documentation is written is very obtuse and eldritch and a little awful.
very draconian.
Very
Yeah.
legalese.
And
Yes.
yes,
I think I found it. So please don't. Oh no, no. I can't.
I think it's a little earlier than that.
So while you all are looking through this, I've noticed. Oh no, you found it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, it's just if the crews talked about the SAG strike on Cold Read, did you consult with union contacts or other folks with a full understanding of what agreements aren't affected by the strike beforehand? And it was prefaced with the, I'm not exactly sure how to ask this question because I genuinely don't mean it in any sort of unkind or judgmental way, but just in the interest of making sure everyone has the correct info and in the interest of
Yeah.
not confusing listeners. And I mean, again, it's just because of the fact that the nature of how everything is written is a little terrible from a basic
Yeah.
comprehensibility standpoint, especially if you don't necessarily have a super robust network of people to go, hey, this is what this means in practice.
Mhm.
Which is kind of a unique situation to find oneself in, either geographically or just who you happen to know on the internet, who's done this before. Like, you know, having friends who have gone through multiple WGA and SAG strikes before is a unique situation to be in. And so I remember at one point I sort of turned to a friend and I was like, this is probably a ridiculous question, but am I right that union video games aren't affected at all right now? And he went, that's absolutely correct.
Oh,
And
okay.
I completely
That's good to
understand
know.
why you're understand why you're confused, but it's not. It's not. And the reason why is because SAG strikes, and this is the one thing where at this point when people ask about struck companies,
Mhm.
it's a little different from when the WGA goes on strike.
Yeah.
Because rather than it being a company by company situation, SAG strikes are agreement based, which means that it is not the company that is struck, it is the specific type of work that is
Yeah.
struck.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
Fascinating.
yeah. So what that means in practice is, well, can I do work for Netflix? It's like, well, that really depends. Are you doing any kind of on-camera work for Netflix? Because if so, the answer is 98% of the time going to be no. If you are working with a studio that is doing dubbing, but not looping, so not live action post-production, but we are recording this audio in English or Spanish from an origin language that is outside of that sphere, right? That falls under the dubbing agreement and not the ADR and looping agreement. And the dubbing agreement is never affected by TV theatrical. So dubbing is okay. Looping is not.
Interesting.
My head hurts.
Yeah. So I mean, theoretically, like if it would be more useful to just kind of go straight down the line and going, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is on fire, you shouldn't touch it right now. Do that. But
One of the things that we did
also-
talk about when it comes to that particular one is we were always afraid. I mean, we don't know where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years, and we don't want to be marked as a scab. So it's entirely important for us to make sure that what we're doing now isn't going to affect us in the future.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it does say like anyone who wants to be in SAG-AFTRA, you can't work with any struck companies, and it's quite broad in the wording. So all of us were kind of going, okay, do we need to look into the people a bit more and do more questioning and everything like that? And it was like, because we were then sort of talking about how, oh, let's wait for this interim, because it talks about interim agreements as well.
Yes. So the
As-
interim agreements at the moment, those will allow production to continue.
Mhm.
Those are on. It's sometimes a project by project basis, but then you see certain other groups like A24 who can generally just sort of settle on interim because
Mhm.
my understanding as someone who's not an on-camera human, so I may not be
Yeah.
entirely correct here.
Right.
My understanding is that because of how A24 can exist in both the union and non-union sort of hybrid caste sphere, it's a little easier for them to be able to reach interim agreements because of the
Mhm.
fact that they have already been using documentation that is a little bit similar to that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think yeah.
So
Brain hurt.
well, no, and keeping in mind that, I mean, I've been watching, obviously, I still do the voices.com thing. I've already paid for the stupid membership. I may as well hold on to it. Work there is starting to dry up. I mean, there isn't very much as it was before. I mean, you would see 20, 30 emails. You're only seeing maybe 10 right now. And even some of it is talking about commercial work. So I don't know where that would land for like.
Yes. So for a voiceover in a commercial context, I don't know if it would be helpful at all to screen share. But I did grab copies of the infographics if
Mhm.
if those are of any utility at all. But please come back. The National Association of Voice Actors, so
Okay.
NAVA.
Okay.
Okay.
NAVA is a coalition that is not officially affiliated with SAG. They're kind of like the coalition of dubbing actors, in that they are an organized group of voiceover professionals just trying to basically ensure better industry practices. NAVA has certain other perks too. You still pay into it, but like if you don't meet the requirements for SAG-AFTRA health coverage, which less
Like,
than 13% of
yeah.
union actors do, theoretically you can get some healthcare sort of fund relief and insurance coverage through NAVA because of how people are paying into the system. It basically just pays back out to folks as they need it.
Gotcha.
Sure. That's
So for voiceover types that are directly cut off by the strike, you have feature-length animated films,
Okay.
looping, which again is not dubbing, and similarly, ADR and voice matching for TV and film are also struck because it doesn't fall under the same sort of jurisdiction as dubbing.
Okay.
Trailers for things that are being theatrically released, so for
Right.
film and for TV, those are
Mhm.
not good. And narration in feature films, because of the fact that they still fall under the sort of
Right.
feature film umbrella, those are
Yeah.
not okay. So those are
yeah.
those are the main core types where it's a definite unequivocal no-go.
And that's a lot more. Again, it's more specific because in the original strike order, it just says voice acting, and we all went ah. But
Yes.
having that broken down a
but
bit
again,
easier is nicer. Yeah.
that's also because of the fact that in the grand hierarchy of people who make SAG money,
There we go.
voiceover is not very high up.
Okay.
Even those of us who are able to be fully financially stable off of that, who are making those lovely usage fees off of commercials. Speaking of commercials, those are still okay.
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 Video games
Oh.
are still okay because again the commercial agreement and the interactive media agreement are still fine. The
Okay.
interactive media agreement will be up next year. Because it works on a 4-year term, that one does. It will be
Okay.
up next year.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised, personally, if there is a video game strike affecting the IMA, which it's gonna be a bummer, but it's also hilariously going to reveal which giant companies like to keep their games non-union.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, it's gonna be neat.
Okay. Note to self: audition for all video games now. No, I don't know.
Well, because whatever agreements that you go into, even say if they do strike in the future, for the
Yeah.
most part, you're still allowed to do.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. We have no
Yeah,
idea. We don't know.
We don't know.
Wait, so what is the specificity of that particular question?
So I'm aware that there was some leniency if you had a prior contract agreement before the strike order started, that you were still okay to do certain work.
Yes.
So that's what I'm
yes,
saying.
so-
Sign
so-
up now for video game stuff, so next year you're still on that project if we do go on strike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that contracts regarding promotion specifically,
Mhm.
Yeah.
those, because of the fact that they are very time sensitive, if those were agreed to beforehand and then like a film released and you were, say, just doing promo work and you weren't like an actor in the thing, actors in things cannot do any kind of promotion, even if they are sworn to promotional contracts, because
Right.
of the fact that the SAG agreement being struck, it
Yeah.
supersedes that.
Yeah.
But the yeah, so I mean the thing for union video games is that, let's say that you're doing a performance capture project that's going to take 5 years worth of development or whatever.
Yeah.
And you do all of the actually that's not necessarily the best example, because mocap falls under a funny gray area. Well, okay, let's just assume for a moment that performance capture falls purely under the IMA, which it doesn't,
Okay.
but let's pretend. And so you do all of that work, and then they go, oh, we need you back in next year for, pickup audio and this, that, and the other thing. If the strike is happening and they try to summon you back, my understanding is that in a lot of cases, you cannot go back
Jesus.
to do
Okay.
that, as
Right.
as the strike is still going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Again, though, that's only for union games.
Right.
So,
That's
Yeah.
fair.
So if it's
but still.
non-unionized, it's a whole other thing. And I mean, even in thinking of union versus non-union, I remember in the strike order that when Renara was reading it, it talked about like levels of budget, like ultra low,
Yes.
low. I mean, is that something that you're somewhat familiar? What is an ultra low? Do we even know if there's a
Yeah.
price range?
So my understanding is, and again, I'm not an on-camera person for the most part, that there are financial thresholds with regards to overall budget. I did a little bit of background work on something last August, where we had at least one person who is a member of SAG-AFTRA, and so what that meant was that I signed a bunch of SAG-AFTRA background actor forms, and I was like, these are probably the only time that I'm ever gonna see these. Neat. But interestingly, because of the fact that like we were under a certain budgetary threshold, that background work does not provide you with vouchers that theoretically allow background people who do background like as a consistent income thing.
Right.
If it's under a certain budgetary threshold, it will not provide you with a voucher that can eventually lead to you attaining eligibility for SAG-AFTRA membership.
Oh.
So
Wow.
there are
Oh.
there are definite thresholds. I do not know what they are offhand.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's something
fine.
that you would have to look at the individual agreements for, or I'm sure they have an FAQ somewhere. The formatting might be wonky and it might be written in legalese, but it's out there somewhere.
Yay!
Yes, apparently. Wow. So it's I mean, and this is why there's a lot of confusion. I mean, when we looked at it, we looked at the strike order, and it's like, okay, we're just reading it verbatim, and we're trying to figure out what specifically this means.
Because I think the main thing was it was trying to figure out because we were trying brain, come on, I'll get there. We were going through it and the whole ultra, mid, low, and all those things, we were trying to figure out where within the voice acting industry that would land us, like for all of, like for different for narration and things
different.
like that, and yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's different. It's a little different for us because of the fact that there are certain specific agreements, like before the dubbing agreement as a whole, was amended
Mhm.
substantially for the first time since 2004.
Holy crap!
The so when the dubbing agreement, well, rather before the dubbing agreement was fully amended, the coalition of dubbing actors, in sort of combination with a few other people, worked with Netflix specifically to create a Netflix specific dubbing agreement that does still go into effect for Netflix as its own entity.
Okay.
Now, of course, if the dubbing agreement as a whole were struck, that would it's like the parent agreement to Netflix's
Yeah.
dubbing agreement, so it would still
Goes
strike
on.
that down completely.
Mhm.
But like when I did ADR work on Record of Ragnarok, that is a Netflix show, so it's this is all of the bits and bats of paperwork that you've got to fill out, which are they were SAG-AFTRA dubbing papers, but this is Netflix affiliated, ergo it also receives this and this and this inherited from the Netflix dubbing agreement.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a seemingly an amalgamation of, you've got the backbone, which is the SAG-AFTRA, and then Netflix has added their bits and pieces to create this one thing that kind of affects each other. Did I get that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that,
Okay.
yeah. So there are certain I would say it's moderately uncommon for voiceover, where there are studio specific agreements like that.
Mhm.
That was a little special because of the fact that Coda and company sort of beat the negotiation on the dubbing agreement to the punch in terms of, hey, can we actually make these rates like slightly less horrifying looking? And Netflix went, all right, and did, which was great.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of again, for voiceover, a lot of what you're sort of seeing and where part of the confusion comes in is that although the TV theatrical agreement seemingly affects voiceover, it only affects relatively small slivers
Yeah.
of what is a much, much larger industry.
So it's more like the voice acting that is extra to the project as a whole is affected, not voice acting is affected, if that makes sense. So if voice acting's in part of
yeah, so if basically if the voice acting is being used as a part of a television or theatrical release movie, which also includes films that release on streaming that do not fall into certain other categories, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those subfields are affected,
Okay.
essentially.
Yeah.
So that's why you see that. Okay, so relay animation being used for animated films, that's affected. Well, why is episodic TV animation not affected? It's because TV animation has its own agreement that is
Okay.
not
Of course
a part
it
of TV
does.
theatrical.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. We're all
And,
gonna
like,
look back on
within
this
that,
episode
there
and
are
just
gonna need,
certain other contracts. Like Nickelodeon has its own specific sub agreement there.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course it
'Cause
does.
why not?
Why
I
not?
I feel like we're gonna need a
It's
fucking
just
reference
it's just
sheet.
a
Like,
Matryoshka doll of agreements inside
seriously.
of other agreements.
We all
like,
need lawyers, is what that is. We
Yeah,
all
that's
just
what
need
I'm-
lawyers.
we're gonna need like a poster to stick up on the wall inside of our booth
Tree.
that says, like, companies you can work with, companies you can't
Yeah.
work with.
No, it's gonna be the
Well,
voice actor's
but-
flow chart. It'll be like,
Yes.
yes, you can do this. Nope, no, okay, go over there.
Yeah. Although honestly,
Is it
more
this?
than even more than companies you can versus can't work for, it's work types you can do. Is
Yeah.
this a movie?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it a
Exactly,
feature-length
yeah.
animated film? Yes. Do not touch. Is
Yeah.
it a movie?
Stranger
Yes.
danger.
Is it anime? Yes. Is it, if it's, well, honestly, if it's anime, it originates in a language other than English. It falls under
Yeah.
the dubbing agreement. It's fine.
Okay.
Jeepers.
What I am really interested in is, I know you've touched on it and you were like, let's gloss over that, but it's the thing of motion capture. Where does that fall? Because I am seeing more video game auditions come through that are saying we would like you in for mocap for the character as well as you voicing the character. So where does that lie in that sort of thing? Because mocap is
Um,
usually it's more, well, with Avatar and everything in films, if that makes sense. But when it comes to video game mocap, where does that
Yeah,
land?
see, that is the one thing where I know for a fact that if it is non-union,
Hmm.
you're pretty much in the clear.
Okay.
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 If it is union affiliated, there are certain
trouble.
clauses onto it that I
Okay.
don't have a complete grasp of.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's
If
fair.
you want full details, on that, I can heckle Deneen and Alex and see if they have all of the sort
We
of
need a
sub things to
document
that
of just everything.
yeah, because I mean
Perfect.
honestly, they do vastly more mocap than
Yeah.
me. I have a ridiculous old man body that can
Oh.
do certain things very well, but mocap is not always one of them. But the
Unless it's an old
it's like
person.
certain bits are very bendy, certain bits are not bendy at all. Send help.
So it's
But,
but should.
you want me to run in this economy? But no, I mean, so that's something where it's odd because it's wedged between the interactive media agreement, but yet there is still a this is definitely union, and
Yeah.
it's definitely involving on camera capture for use in XYZ way, to where I don't feel confident saying anything one way or
Okay.
the other purely
That
because
is
it's not
totally
a
fine,
steer.
don't
That's
worry.
that's better than us. You're fine.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing in the strike order as well, and I'm assuming this just has to do with promotional. No panels, no podcasts, no
Yeah.
anything like that.
There was a
Yes,
moment for us all.
so that freaked a lot of people out at first.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a couple caveats. So let's say that you're an actual play show. Let's say that you're Dimension 20. If you're Dimension 20, you operate off of a SAG-AFTRA contract. Ergo, you are struck because
Oh,
of
God.
the. Yeah. Now they are not necessarily explicitly struck, but they still halted anyway because of the fact that when these agreements were made and when they were last amended, the actual play sphere did not exist as it exists now. Critical Role, despite its cast being SAG, does not operate as a union-aligned company. The
Yeah.
larger
Yeah.
company does not operate in that capacity. Ergo, until more firm guidance is released that confirms one way or the other, Crit Roll is still going. With, of course, all of them are like, we 100% support the strikes in all
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
how it applies. It's just we are in uncharted waters.
Yes.
Which, you know, I mean, if I were in a film and someone said, "Hey, come onto this podcast and we're going to pay you to promote this film," you can't do that while the strike is going.
Right.
So if it is a struck project, you cannot be invited in an official capacity to promote that thing, which is why a bunch of panels at San Diego Comic-Con didn't happen,
Right.
but people could still go as guests because they were going
Yeah.
as their own entity rather than as something directly affiliated with a struck production.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So people
Wow.
can come onto Cold Read without fear then.
Oh, it's a volunteer. We're not paying anybody. I mean, yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
yeah, all of you are non-union. Like the project itself is not union. No one's making any money here.
I
No.
know. Yay.
Jesus, Bernard.
That's the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna,
yeah,
we're gonna
there we
go
go.
cry in our respective corners. now.
I'll just put myself in the corner. Sorry.
Oh my God.
There's no money in voiceover.
No. Voiceover's fine. Podcasting, on the other hand, is now questionable.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wealth of knowledge. We absolutely love it. Anything surprising that's come out of the whole, I mean, other than obviously how out of date these agreements were, especially with the streaming world coming in and everything else. Anything else surprising coming out of all of this?
I mean, I this is more just a me personally thing, but
Yeah.
like 2-ish weeks before the SAG-AFTRA strike happened, a friend of mine discovered that he had accidentally picked up a Guardian Ron Perlman years ago, um, and because the two of them had spoken together, he was writing a project, and at one point Ron was in consideration for potentially like being a part of it as an actor. The two of them like got to talking, and unbeknownst to my friend, over the last 15 years, Ron Perlman has just been silently watching and hyping up his career to
No
a bunch of other
way!
people. Yeah. And so 2 weeks before all of SAG acquired a Guardian Ron Perlman,
Yeah. There was
very, very pointedly going after maybe Bob Iger, allegedly. There's more than
Yikes.
one way to lose a house.
God.
Yeah.
God.
So, 2 weeks ish before everyone acquired a Guardian Ron Perlman, my friend sort of discovered that he had acquired a Guardian Ron Perlman, which was very sweet. The two of them happened to meet back up at an event, and he was like, I don't know if I'm sure that you have no memory of this, but we met years ago. And Ron went, oh yeah, no, we met for this, and we were talking about this, that, and like this other like
Wow.
side thing. And he's like, honestly, he remembered more about our meeting than I did.
Wow.
No, I
awesome
mean,
is that?
I'd say the other thing that's sort of been surprising about watching the strikes is just, I mean, it's not really that surprising, but it is very heartwarming to see how galvanized a joint strike is between the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, because
Absolutely.
it's the first time that it's happened in 60 years.
Mhm.
And I've only gone to a picket once, mostly because I could scrape up a couple other immunocompromised people, and we could go, hey, we're gonna go to the most shaded and least populated ones and wear N95s the entire time and stay away from people.
We'll be over here.
And yeah, no, it was nice. But what was really lovely was that even when I got there and I was like, I don't know where registration is, I saw someone who I figured was probably a WGA captain, because I'm like, you are carrying entirely too many objects to not be a WGA captain. And so I asked them, like where I need to go, and we were both heading in that sort of direction, and just sort of like encountering people outside of your sort of sphere of work,
Yeah.
seemingly organically, just because you're both in the same place doing the same thing, is interesting. Because I mean, as centralized as the industry is in some ways here, you really don't necessarily see people in your specific field of work or even anything adjacent to it
Yeah.
a lot of the time. So as much as it's frustrating to be far away and to be remote and all of these things, it's like it's still basically a collection of islands. It's just every once in a while you can kind of smush a bunch of actors together and be like, aha, we're doing a thing.
Well, it's very cool. In thinking about this whole, position that we're in, and I've mentioned this before, it's like change only happens when there's conflict. So these strikes are not a bad thing. It's obviously needed because of the evolving technology. These agreements need to be worked out again. It's super important, because you don't want to be an extra that sells their image and then we'll never see anything past that again, which I mean, I'm hearing this is one of the big things. Back in the old days when an actor was signing a contract with one company, they could only do what that one company wanted them to do, and it's like it's the same thing in a digital format. So
And I mean, I think too, honestly, if more reasonable practices regarding residuals can be, I mean, there are things. A lot of people nowadays cannot attain the same kind of financial stability as our forebears. It is literally impossible, even for like subfields of acting that do ostensibly generate residuals, simply because of the fact that the streaming model has allowed for caveats within that then mean that people aren't making money, and also that their work isn't necessarily preserved in any kind of physically relevant format. So both from a media preservation standpoint and just a creatives preservation standpoint in terms of being able to, I don't know, buy food,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
pay rent,
Live.
be a person.
Yeah.
Um,
Electricity. You need that.
We're allowed that?
yeah, I mean, a lot of, because I mean, even my friend with the Guardian, Ron Perlman, is like, yeah, I mean, people who have just become members of the WGA because he's both.
Oh.
People who have just become members of the WGA, like, cannot do what I was able to do 20 years ago in the same way because of the fact that the landscape has just shifted and streaming is not supporting people in the same way.
Right.
No.
So I mean, really, that's a sort of galvanizing force again between both guilds because it's a struggle, and even the struggles with artificial intelligence are something that is
Oh.
shared between both parties so
Yeah.
intensely that there is really, I mean, I highly doubt that there would have been infighting anyway, but especially because fundamentally everybody's working toward the same goal. I feel like that is a really nice galvanizing force in terms of inter-guild solidarity.
Right.
And even
Agreed.
Continental. I mean, not only probably about a couple of weeks after it was and this all started happening in the US, the BBC in London got shut down for a few hours because literally everyone walked out, and it was like, and I don't live in London. I would have joined if I could, but it's the thing of there's, it's not often that, at least in my experience, that I've seen with unions, at least in the UK, that like things don't really like gel. Like it's like, oh, it's just that group's upset about one thing, okay, they'll be fine. But now it's like there's so many different, everyone, no matter where you are in the world, is also kind of coming together for this, and it's the most, yeah, galvanizing and like solidarity, and everyone's working together. And I can't word properly because I've got brain fog, but I know what I'm trying to say.
It's okay.
the thing of, I'm getting there. Thank you.
Rambles.
There we go. Yeah. But it's
You were going
such
for that. I see
a
that.
wider influence, and I think it just shows the community we have, I think.
Yeah.
And how that community kind of translates over into the writing, into these other departments and all these other things, how it kind of just amalgamates together. And I guess that kind of goes with why we're so confused as to which bit is affected.
Yes.
Because we're all
Yeah.
kind of together with it, sort of thing. But no, that was just my 2 cents, because I was like, oh my god, when I saw it on my newsfeed, I was like, whoa. But
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, there's still a lot of, I'm not going to say animosity. I know one side has been worse than the other one. Have there been any returns to negotiations? Where we stand right now, or where do they stand? I should say.
Well, the SAG-AFTRA and the WGA are very happy to talk again. The AMPTP is not.
Right.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, it's just negotiations can and will continue once the AMPTP is willing to come back.
Yeah, didn't they issue something recently where they basically were kind of like responding to all of SAG's demands, and they're like, nah, bruh, we're good. Like,
Yeah, so that
just basically
that-
declined
that-
like everything.
Yeah, so all of those were from the initial batch of negotiations.
Yeah.
But they are sort of frozen and can't be released immediately after negotiations end for just ridiculous bureaucratic reasons.
Right.
But the so it was pretty much just whenever SAG, even just in terms of, hey, could we maybe, like, I don't know, pay people a paltry fee if they're doing their own like hair and makeup prep before showing up to set, because that's still technically labor beforehand, and the
Yeah.
AMPTP went, no.
What the heck?
Jeepers.
God.
Are we all just
So a lot
imagining
of-
these suits in this like top building office, just like no, the people.
I mean, I can't really argue with that though, because like my fiance has done a lot of like background work and stuff like that, and there has been parts that she's been in where they ask you to bring your own clothing for whatever scene. They'll give you a description of what your character is supposed to look like, and she goes out to like Goodwill and Salval and whatnot and buys clothes, and then she arrives with like a suitcase full of it, like, here you go, what do you think? And they're like, nah, we can't use any of this. We're just going to give you, what we already have. So it's like I don't even feel like they should be recommending that personally, but
I don't know. I'd say there's a slight difference between clothing and makeup, because applying one's
Yeah.
makeup
Yeah,
and
and it's
applying
also-
someone's
it's also
hair is a
not
bit more of
the-
a...
Yeah, it's also not the supply cost. It is
Yeah.
the prep work and labor cost.
Yeah, the time
It is-
involvement.
You would pay,
Yeah.
you would pay a makeup artist to do this if they did not do it themselves.
Yeah.
That is someone else on staff who would be paid.
Right.
Ergo, if you are expecting your actor to do that in advance, the same rules should logically apply.
Yeah.
But they
I can
don't
agree with that.
currently.
Yeah. Well, then just don't do it then.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, you all can deal with this. To be shiny on
You
camera.
do my makeup then.
Yeah. Well, seriously. Like, I mean, how else are we supposed to make any traction?
No, it's. I mean, again, these are obviously situations that do need to be. People need to be able to earn a wage. People need to be able, because like you mentioned, people are mad that actors are on strike, but it's not everybody is at the top of that career. You have a lot of
the vast
people.
majority of people are not.
Yeah, and you have so many people that are struggling and that have families, and asking for a decent wage isn't a bad thing. So don't compare the 0.1% to everybody else that's involved in this production of everything that you watch. It's not it's not the 3 people that you're watching on screen. It's the 150 people in the back that put everything together. Or Dorino, who just does everything for the show.
I'm
But
a
it
man
sort
of
of
many
does-
talents.
It does make
Go
me
ahead.
think of how many actors might have given up on either voice acting or acting because of this sort of thing, that and because it hadn't been reached sooner. My brain's doing the philosophical thing of how many more actors might we have in the circuit if this had been broached sooner, because there might have been
Yes.
some people who would have wanted to do this but can't because bills and have to, so then they might have had to
Yeah.
completely change directory, and it just it's one of those things of, it's why we keep saying, like, keep grinding, because we know it's hard, but at the same time this is I think this might needed to have happened sooner. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think too. There's this misconception, that is, I mean, it's prevalent across all of acting as a whole, but I think especially for voice acting, that, oh, well, you're a full-time voice actor, so this is your only stream of income. For basically everyone I know, that is not their only stream of income. They are either they're either married to or in a relationship with someone who has a consistent income job that provides enough funds. They work multiple jobs themselves. That's me. They are doing other production side stuff, like they're doing adaptation, they're doing casting work, they're doing so many sort of other things still within that sphere, or they have financial backing, like from family or other sources.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, I mean, for one of my friends, the most, we've been in the field for about 15 years. And the most they've ever made in 1 year from voiceover alone was about $14K.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. Now I have friends who have less niche vocal prints who can book a lot of commercials with very, very nice union fees and recurring usage fees that are markedly more stable, but who are also married. Whose spouse has a consistent income job.
Yeah.
So even if, say, all of those commercial bookings suddenly vanished into the ether, which, I mean, for one particular friend that I'm thinking of, it's not. But even if that were to be the case, there's still fallback. So, I mean, if the most you ever make in a year, I mean, there's another person who I know on Twitter as can repair his own cars with expert precision because of the fact that
Love
doing it himself means that he's able to save extreme amounts of money.
Yes.
But
home car, yeah.
last year in voiceover, he made $800. The most he has ever made is $5,000. This man voiced a playable character in Street Fighter V.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Just-
gosh.
If that
what?
didn't put it into perspective, guys.
That's a AAA game, and it's crazy. I mean, even the individual that you mentioned that made $14,000. $14,000 is not going to get you very far. No, this is why you have the
especially
starving.
with California cost of living.
Oh yeah, California.
Well,
cost of
right,
living.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
why we say do it because you love doing it. Just do it because you love doing it, because obviously it's not.
Well, yeah, but you gotta be able to pay your bills somehow.
I
Like,
know.
Well, that's why you do. That's why you have another job.
well, right, and I understand that, but I mean, just like in the grand scheme of things, I live in a relatively like low cost area, and 14,000 would like barely cover my bills. So, oof. All right. Anyways,
So you hear that, MTPT?
I'm
No.
gonna have an existential crisis after this episode. I
PTP.
cannot wait.
Yeah.
Expert
that.
Precision
I mean,
replaced his engine oil with vegetable oil. It says Fire and Brimstone.
God's sake.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jett.
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's fine. Believe it or not, we've been talking for over an hour already, so we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up.
What?
I know, right? How crazy!
Again?
It's like
This
every
keeps
time.
happening to us.
Yeah. Well, and then every time we have you on, Jett, it's like, man, I can't wait to talk to you again next time and see what the next topic is. So, we love having you over. Fountain of knowledge. This is.
Thank you.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm not in the best place still when it comes to what is cool and what's not, but it's nice to be able to talk it out. It's good to semi-understand that most of what we're going to do, as long as it doesn't fall into certain categories, are A-okay. So I think I'll go out with a little bit more confidence after this, and then I will slowly cry in the corner with Dorino as we try to figure stuff out.
And that's also completely fine. That's a totally valid approach.
I'll stop confusing directors, because I kept asking. I went to Discord servers and going, "Is your project currently affected by SAG-AFTRA?" I'll stop doing
It's better
that
to
now.
ask than.
Oh, yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Always best to make sure. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to email us, coreadthepodcast@gmail.com, coreadthepodcast@gmail.com, or join our Discord. Fire and Brimstone, our favorite daily memer, is currently in the chat. Also says, time flies when you're having fun. Absolutely.
Indeed.
So come on in, join us, add on to the memes. We're going to start some video game projects here very soon. We'd love to have people on board. So just come on in and check it out. I won't go into too much more detail here. We do want to hear your audio, though. I'd love to have another episode of just audio. So if you have an accent, a demo reel, a character that you're developing, we'd love to hear it. And then we will give you constructive feedback. We've done it all to each other, and we've all grown because of it. So please don't be afraid of it. Next week intro is going to be Dorino.
This guy.
This guy. Very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, until then, again, thank you, Jett. Any last words for those of us that are here or listening?
No, I mean, I think mostly just, keep holding on.
Yes.
It's liable to keep on going for a bit, I reckon, but everyone will get through it together. And yeah, I mean, it's never a bad thing to ask questions. It's a confusing mess. If you need points of clarity, whether you are in Southern California or afar, find humans who are more familiar with the documentation than you,
Yes.
and just sort of check in and be like, hey, I have a question about this, specific thing.
I love that.
I've found that people are relatively willing to offer knowledge because, again, it's not very well written. It's buried under layers of legalese.
Yeah.
So yeah, never be afraid to ask questions.
All right, everybody.
All
We'll
right.
catch you all next time. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Drink water.
There it is.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. All right, recording's over. Again, thank you to those that were here. Fire and Brimstone, most front and center. Everybody else who's lurking, thank you. We will catch you all next time, and we're going to turn off the stream. Bye, everybody.
Bye, chat.
Farewell.